So the first question is what do you want? What do I want? And then the second most important question is why? Why do we want it? So the idea is that we're not going to be able to make stuff happen in our lives as well as if we really solidify those things. So we're going to be running and running and running and running. And so that's not what I want us to do. And then also, I know just from the messages that I get from you all personally that we're all, ladies, we're all facing like a million different things at once. And sometimes it can be hard to figure out like what direction to go in. And so like right now for me, what's going on with me is a lot of the extra is just being like stripped from me right now. Like the extra work time, the extra job itself. Like today even, this morning was like super frustrating because normally Saturday is like a whole work day for me. But Jacob's dad drives a truck and there's been all this bad weather. And so Jacob had to sit with me, like, bless his little heart, he sat right over there on those little benches with me and did his iPad. He's relatively unscathed by it, and no one seemed to mind too much because he was really quiet for me. But I'm having to learn that this is going to be, like my new life, right? So I'm going to have Jacob a lot more, and I looked back through all my videos that I've given to you all lately, and one of the biggest themes was that I wanted more time for Jacob, and I was committing myself to that in the last training that we did, and I watched all those last trainings from In the Face of Fear. So I think now after all that babbling, I think I know like what I want, and it feels challenging just with everything else. But what I want is to create a career that allows me to do whatever I need to do for my child. So I want a job that allows me to do whatever I want to do for my child. And one thing you're supposed to do after you say that is you're supposed to say, well, what does that look like? Well, what does that look like? So what that looks like for me is that I want a job that lets me do whatever I need to do for my child. Like, it looks like for me that I want for him to always get enough sleep. And I always want him to be able to do an after-school activity. Not a million, but at least one thing, like soccer. And I want to have the mornings. I want to have the mornings to get up and have that time and to do his homework. And I want to be able to take vacations. And right now that's what it looks like for me. And I want to have extra, finances to be able to make all that stuff happen. Okay? So what do I want? I want a job that allows me to take care of Jacob in the ways that I see best to take care of Jacob. And then we talked about what it looked like. So for you, when you say, what do you want? What do you want the most right now? And that's what I want the most right now. And so now after you say, what do you want? And then what does that look like? Then we need to ask, why do I want it? So why do I want a job like this? And I think the first answer for me, well, why do I want a job like this, is that I want the extra time. And so then after you answer that question one time, then you say, well, why do you want extra time with Jacob? And why I want extra time with Jacob is because I feel like he's falling behind, and I don't want that to happen. And so why why do you not want Jacob to fall behind? And then that's like the third why. We're going to ask it 5 more times. Why don't I want Jacob to fall behind? Because I don't want it to be any harder for him than it needs to be. And then you could ask, another time, like, well, why is that important to you? Why is not having Jacob have to have more struggles than he needs to right now important to you? And then I would say, again, why is that important to me? The bottom line, and we'll pretend I asked 5 times in case I didn't. Why is it important for Jacob not to be behind? And then that one is because I don't want him to feel extra loaded with things. And the bottom line is I don't ever want him to feel that he's on his own or that he doesn't have help. And I want to be there for all of it, right? So the idea is when you ask what do you want, why do you want it, once you ask yourselves 5 times, like the bottom line for me is that I don't want Jacob to feel alone or lonely or stressed or any of that. And so now, and this is part of Change Your Mind, Change Yourself, and I'm going to maybe share, this is like from the habit tracker, and so I might share like the habit tracker with you ladies. And so if